What is the right phrase to summarise the way that Manchester United and Erik ten Hag have done this right now? Is it that Erik ten Hag is him? Is that even an accurate representation? Can you even call a man who comes in as a manager him? By the very definition, he kind of is him. But secondly, is it also the perfect marriage of what a lot of people would like to think Sir Alex Ferguson is, which is probably close to the truth, but also what they want a modern continental manager to be when taking a team into the 21st century, which arguably Manchester United already were, but we're talking about the 20 years into it right now, right? And that makes me feel old. But the point is, Erik ten Hag right now doing something that a lot of managers in recent years have failed to do. Where do we even start? I mean, let's start with the actual game this evening, right? Or at least whenever you're watching this. Manchester United come through against Barcelona, a team who are top of La Liga, a team who are performing very well this season, a team with many superstars, a team with a lot of young talent, a team with pretty decent defenders, a team with pretty decent attackers, a balanced, adjustable, continental team that are pretty confident and who haven't had all that many beatings this season. Erik ten Hag did it though. Now, weirdly, obviously, Barcelona and the Dutch have a bit of a strange relationship, so maybe there's some sort of genesis there. Erik ten Hag also has this habit of kind of playing up in the big games, not only with Manchester United, but with previous teams as well, and maybe putting together little cup runs. Talk about the other cup run in just a second. But on the night, there was kind of this stuttering first half for Manchester United. Maybe it looked like it was the end of the road. Barcelona got the first goal. Manchester United didn't quite look confident. The formation wasn't quite working. A couple of players looked slightly out of position. And that is often what you're going to get in the first season of any new manager, especially when they're trying to work out what best way to gel a team together. And you kind of see that with many players. You saw it with Arteta. You saw it with Klopp. You kind of saw it with Pep. And all the modern managers in the Premier League now, well, they get the time to experiment because, well, actually, Erik ten Hag's earned more than the time to experiment. Look how far they are in this competition. Look how far they got in another. Look how well he's doing in the Premier League. He's got time to stumble, so to speak. And he's not stumbled nearly as much as we thought he would. There were loads of questions over Erik ten Hag in the first place. There were loads of people wondering what his capabilities were, but he seemed to come with a good CV, a good roster of people around him who he bought in coaching staff, and actually a pretty good transfer list. He also seemed pragmatic enough to integrate players when they missed out on certain aspects. For instance, one of their opposition tonight, that Manchester United apparently spent so much time in the summer trying to sign that they got distracted from other signings they could have made. That's Frankie de Jong. Frankie de Jong may be off somewhere else now, but Manchester United might not feel as bad about missing out on last summer as they would have if Erik ten Hag hadn't been this good. Anyway, he then makes some changes. He puts some players into the right positions, and I think even Robbie Savage points it out in the commentary. A couple of people are playing in the right place. You've got Sancho out on the left. You've got like a 10 maybe in Bruno, and then you've got Fred kind of pushing onto the ball, right? And then a goal comes from Manchester United. They get a little bit more dominance in the game. People are playing in positions they feel a bit more comfortable in. And Erik ten Hag has shown something which a lot of other managers at Manchester United haven't done in recent years. In recent years, it was my way or the highway, or it was your way or the highway for me, I guess. And there was never quite this balance or of egos within the side. There was always one end of the scale at Manchester United that seemed to be tipping in favour of someone that you don't... Well, why do you need to tip scales? There needs to be balance, right? It just works. There is now balance within the side. Maybe that's a simplistic way of looking at it, but you get the point. And then immediately after that, he makes a substitution which goes on to influence how Manchester United are attacking, basically to pin back the players that you want to pin back for Barcelona and almost surround them in their penalty area, giving so many players a chance to shoot. And then finally, Antony steps up and puts it in. A lot of questions over Antony and the price that they paid for him, but ultimately I think it'll probably play out over the lifetime of the contract. But the point being, if he does stuff like that more consistently, and he has had an injury more recently, then people will be happy about him as a Manchester United player. He evokes some things about the wingers of the past for Manchester United, and he's got that kind of deft, it's an idiosyncratic touch. It's a touch which only he seems to have out on the pitch. He has this kind of deft way of curling it into the far corner. There are very few players who curl a ball like he does. Sure, other players can kill the ball, but it's about the way that your body is shaped around it. It's about the way that he seems to be able to touch it and get that traction on it, which puts it perfectly into the far netting. Now, that's all great. That's all well and good, right? But then what do you do with the rest of the players in the team? Well, for a little while, he's going to have to be pragmatic. For a little while, he's going to have to be that manager who learns to integrate players he might not necessarily want. And that comes down to coaching. This team is being coached well right now. This team, I mean, sure, they took a couple of weeks. They had the massive losses at the start of the season, but they pushed through that. And Erik ten Hag and, weirdly, people like Steve McLaren are whipping this team into a shape which other managers are currently struggling to do in the Premier League. This season, midfield is so key for Manchester United, and yet there are two players in that midfield that you would have said any previous manager may have chosen to move on, that we kind of go, well, how is he doing this? And the key is clearly Casemiro. They've built quite a solid defensive relationship between Casemiro, Varane, +1. Casemiro, Varane +1, and obviously David De Gea, because Barcelona put in some good shots in the first half and actually the second as well when David De Gea made a really good save. But Casemiro was back for that the block on the line that they had. Varane was then back for the very last block on the line. And actually, Manchester United probably shouldn't have been 1-0 down in the first place. That's probably one of the few misgivings that you could actually needle Bruno Fernandes with. There's a few people in the Premier League who maybe don't like it. I'm not a massive fan of him. And they sort of go, oh, well, you know, maybe he isn't good at this, or he loses his head. And he does sometimes lose his head. There are moments where he feels a little bit too in the moment. There are moments where you sort of think, oh, mate, could you have just thought for a little bit longer there? And sure, he was hanging onto his arm a little bit too long. Maybe it was a soft penalty, but it was a penalty. Sure, doesn't really matter now. Manchester United came back. And in the next round, they will be unseeded. So they could face literally another huge behemoth of a side in the next round, judging from who's going to be getting through. It won't be Arsenal. They can't face a team like Arsenal because they're from the same country as them. But they could face some other big sides. And there's something about Manchester United, which is, and I've said it about other teams when they've been doing their rebuild, feels a little bit box office. Feels a little bit like they're a side that you want to watch now. You need your team, if you want to be that like popular, but also we're going to win things kind of team, to be the team that if you see the notification pop up on your phone that the match is on, but you're not a fan of them, you go, and I'll give it 20 minutes. And maybe you would. That was how it was on Sir Alex. That was how it was. It wasn't like that under Van Gaal. It wasn't like that under Mourinho. It wasn't like that for the same reasons under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Well, it wasn't really like that under Moyes either. But the point being here, there is that Sir Alex factor that we're still sort of looking for, and Erik ten Hag seems to embody quite a lot of it. In fact, there was that lovely sweet moment this week, which probably wasn't this week, it was probably another time, but someone had taken a picture of Erik ten Hag and Sir Alex Ferguson at dinner. I gave you the feels, even if you're not a fan of that. It's this now elderly gentleman having a dinner with someone who seems so now for Manchester United. A memory, almost like it was almost like a Photoshop that a Bleacher Report or some Bleacher Report would have put together, or someone like that. It was almost like someone had kind of staged it, but they hadn't, and it seemed like a very genuine moment anyway. And I'm sure they had a lovely meal. In fact, with the success he's bringing, maybe Sir Alex is kind of trying to work out what the plan is. Maybe even Erik ten Hag is just enjoying Sir Alex Ferguson's company, and maybe unlike previous managers, this isn't one about, I'm going to take some advice from you. It's more about, we're equals here. Maybe something that Sir Alex felt with a Mourinho or maybe a Louis van Gaal, but you can't imagine those two having an always pleasant dinner, although Louis van Gaal does seem like great company. And then, of course, there is the fact they've made a cup final. And these are all, for opposition fans, red flags. For Manchester United, indicators that something good is happening. Something is moving in the right direction. Manchester United are doing the right thing. Then that means that they'll get to a cup final this season. They're going further in Europe, which, by the way, other managers have done in their first season as well. So they're not unique in this, but that's what I'm saying. They're red flags or indicators. And they're an outside shout for the league. Right? Just like an outside shout. If Arsenal drop away, Man City can't quite get it. Guess who's the most consistent team in the league right now? You probably guessed correctly because you're probably a Manchester United fan, but you get the point. And that's coming from a series of players that have been called inconsistent at Manchester United. From a series of players that were doubted and maligned. I had that maligned list on my other video. You can go watch it. It's still on the channel. And that should make Manchester United fans feel good. On top of that, he's also changing players on the field that previously people would have gone, really? That guy? And, I saw it on pitch side the other day. They were saying things like, there was a point where you would have sold Rashford. True, there were kickoff conversations like that. There are probably conversations going on other things we should be like the kickoff, like now as well. And now the conversation is whether he's world class. That comes down to a good coach. That comes down to a good environment. That comes down to a place where people give someone an opportunity, but they don't just go, it's all on you. There is clearly so much progress around someone. They make someone feel comfortable in what it is that they're doing. And that is Marcus Rashford. Manchester United fans, by the way, are still clearly learning how to be winners again. Because tonight when Barcelona sort of went ahead, there was a bit of a, did you read the script? This isn't the way it works. Or maybe it was. But it all fell a little bit flat. Do you know what I mean? It happens at most big stadiums. You can't legislate for that. Although you can. You obviously put the Stretford end in there and you put the paddock and you've got those guys who just go crazy. That's great. But you get my point. The whole stadium can't do that for all 90 minutes. So the indicators are good. Sure, Rashford didn't score tonight, but you don't have to score every week. You just have that. He's now just dangerous goods. And Sancho is really coming on. The width and the formation, the almost positionless, but not like positionless as in, they don't know where they're meant to stand, but the almost switchability of what is going on in Erik Ten Hag's team, where there's the three in the middle and then there's a winger here, so someone else drops back. You can almost see Manchester United are perfectly understanding each of these phases that Erik Ten Hag wants them to go into now. That's what you want if you're a United fan. There is understanding in the team of where Erik Ten Hag is going, and he doesn't even have all his pieces in place. Here's a prediction. Next summer, Manchester United go into the transfer market. Liverpool will try to improve. If they do, sure, they're in a title race. City will improve. I know that. Arsenal will improve. Spurs won't. Manchester United will challenge for a title next season. Maybe even try and retain it. Other people are saying this, by the way. Other people are saying they got the feelings. I'm not the only person saying it. Like Chris Pajak on the Redmen TV, really good clip on their thing. There's loads of people who have got this feeling now. But all the people who have the feeling, they're all people that I trust their guts. I don't like it as a Liverpool fan, but hey, that's football. Right, Mark? So it's good to have you guys. If you've not already hit subscribe, hit it. Let me know what you thought of the performance tonight, and I'll chat to you guys in a while. Much love.